Okay, guys, so the title for this notes was Polynomial Thinking. Polynomial Thinking. And we did 3 problems in class today, but copy down this problem right here. This was the 3rd problem that we did. I'm not too worried about the first 2. This is the only one that I really want you to focus on. And your homework happens to be based on this one as well. So copy down this problem. You can pause the video if you want because I'm about to explain it. So here I go. Now let me say this. Notice that in the directions, it says that G is a factor of F. Let me stop right there. Let me just throw this at you. Don't copy this, just watch. I can tell you that 4 is a factor of 20. And I know that's true because 20 divided by 4 has the remainder of 0. Watch. 20 divided by 4, the remainder is 0. I don't care how many times 4 goes into 20. I just want to point out the fact to you that when you take something and you divide it by a factor, the remainder is 0. So, pencils up, copy this down. I want to say this. I want to say that since g of x is a factor of f of x, comma, f of x divided by g of x has a 0 remainder. Isn't that true? In the directions, it says that g is a factor of f. So that implies that if we go f divided by g, the remainder is 0. Keep that in mind. Now, I want to throw this at you, and don't copy this down, just watch for a second here. So the overall goal is to find, so again, just watch. The goal is to find the zeros of p of x. Now, it's given to us that p of x equals 1/2 x squared plus q. Now, if it's okay with you, remember that p of x just means y. It's just function notation, but at the end of the day, it just means y, doesn't it? Now, I want to find the zeros of p of x. The zeros, in a sense, very often, the zeros are pretty much synonymous with x-intercepts, sort of, kind of. So go back to day number 1 of this school year. Back in August, I told you guys, we learned in class that to find x-intercepts, you set y equal to 0. And that's what we do here now. If you want to find the zeros of p of x, you set y equal to 0. Because zeros, x-intercepts, sort of kind of the same thing. So what we have to do is we set y equal to 0, and then we have to solve this equation. But the problem is we have no idea what q is. It's a mystery. So first things first, what we have to do with this problem is find the value of q. Once we know q, we can plug it in here, solve this equation, and we're done. So going back to the main problem, how are we going to find q? Well, in the directions, it says g is a factor of f, right? G is a factor of f. So what we're going to do is we're going to take f divided by g. And hopefully by doing so, somewhere along the way, we'll discover the value of q. And then we can finish. So how do you guys prefer to divide? Long division or synthetic division? Of course, we're going to go synthetic division. So let's do that. Look at function f. Notice how there are no missing exponents. All of the powers are there, counting down from 5 all the way to a constant. So let's set up our synthetic division system with all the coefficients from f. And this is your remainder box. That number just collapses. Now, what do we put out here? Well, we're dividing by g. So remember what we do. We take g and we set g equal to 0. This is function g, right? So you set it equal to 0 and solve. The solution to that is 7/3. And that's how you decide what goes out here in the front. Yes, yes, yes. This number is the 0 of the divisor. The divisor was g. The 0 of g was that, so I put it out there. Now, let's run through synthetic division. Multiplication, addition, multiplication, addition, multiplication. Oh, this is interesting. When you add these, it's literally just q minus 7. And now we have to multiply these two. So let me do some scratch work down here. Let me take 7/3 times q minus 7. And that's 7/3 q minus 49/3. And let me focus my camera. There it is. Okay, so let me take this here, and that goes right there, right? This little piece of scratch work. I hope my camera was focused from the very beginning. If not, I apologize. Now, what do we have to do? We have to add these. Yes, we have to add these quantities, but of course, these are like terms, right? You have to add these ones together. So bust out your Casios, and you add these constants together, and I'll tell you what it is. It should be 7/3q plus 35/3. And this here, that of course is the remainder. I added these two quantities, and that goes in this spot, and that is the remainder. But remember, since g is a factor of f, when you perform this division, the remainder has to be 0. So what we do is we take our remainder and we set it equal to 0. That was the remainder. I set it equal to 0. And now you and I must solve this equation. So let's see, we subtract this number to this side. We can multiply by a reciprocal. These knock out. So q equals -5. Your Casios would say q is -5. And now we're ready to proceed to the final goal. Because what was the goal? To find the zeros of q, the zeros of p. And so remember that p of x equals 1/2 x squared plus q. But we went through all the trouble to find q. So we have p of x equals this here. So now q is -5, so you put it there. And this completes function p. But we want to find the zeros of function p. So we set the function equal to 0 and solve. Add the 5 across. Okay. We can multiply by 2 both sides. So that 10 equals x squared. We can square root. So x equals plus or minus the square root of 10. What do these numbers represent? They represent the zeros of p. So let's write down a summary statement. Final answer. The zeros of p of x are plus or minus the square root of 10. So I believe that homework behaves very much like this, where you're given a few functions, a few polynomials. Somebody is a factor of somebody. You go synthetic division, set the remainder equal to 0, find some variable which completes some sort of function, and then you find the zeros of that function. So give it a go, and let me know if you guys need any help, and I'll gladly assist you.